The 3 mark setup is so good for practicing start lines and contacts away from agility. And this is a great rainy day, snowy day kind of thing you can do in your hallway with 3 closer marks. Your dog doesn't need to be running full blown between them. You can do 2 marks if you have not a long enough hallway to do 3. But if you're working your dog between 3 marks, as seen in the videos, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, then you set your dog up in front of that first mark versus on it. Now, all of a sudden, you've created the exact scenario of your start line, right? Your dog knows that these 3 marks are the obstacles ahead that he's going to be released towards. And now you're asking the dog to sit and stay. And if you put them just a foot or 2 in front of that first mark bucket, that is harder than anything you will ever do at a start line because of you've just done the repetitions, your dog is already a bucket suck, and you're so close to the mark bucket. And I actually did this at the trial in Southwest Colorado because I've let Lil's start line slide, that we don't do much agility, and I found that I don't really need big lead outs with her. But in the case of this tunnelers course, I actually did want a 2 straight tunnel lead out, which was 20, 40, 60 feet. So I did exactly this. I set a mark bucket up. I set her 2 feet or 1.5 feet behind it, and I let out. And 2 times in a row, boom, boom, she went to the mark, and I'm like, whoops, set her back. The 3rd time, she's like, oh, I get this. I'm supposed to stay until you release me. So I did a few releases. And when I left her at that start line, I knew for sure that she was going to stay because it was so much easier for her to stay 8 feet away from a tunnel than it was, 18 inches from a mark bucket. So if 3 marks in a row is really, really easy for your dog, go, do all that kind of proofing, motion proofing and supporting in that center mark and doing all that stuff that you see in the video, but then finish your sessions with, some of that start line stuff, and you will really clarify for your dog, what releases, like what is the one word that releases. And speaking of the release word, this is also a topic that came up, that for those of you who don't have a one release word that means you're free to leave this position I've asked you to be in. So, if I've asked you to sit, you're going to be released with this word. If you're at the start line, you're going to be released with this word. At end of contact, you're going to be released with this one word. That I feel like that is a much clearer and easier criteria than to just say the next obstacle, which creates in your dog the necessity to listen for the 7 words or 10 words that mean go, and the hundreds of words that mean don't go. So in what I mean by that is if you don't say break tunnel or okay tunnel, you just say tunnel. Now your dog has to release on tunnel, but your dog also has to release on, maybe you'd say left or jump or A-frame or here. All these words mean break, but words like good dog or super or whatever, those mean don't leave. And some people, are great at maintaining clarity with using all those different words. I personally just find it easier for myself to have that break word for 2 reasons. Is the break word is followed by the next cue. So it would be, okay tunnel, and my word is okay, which I would change if I could do it all over again, but it's in my head, I can't change it. So break tunnel, I'm going to say them almost as one word. And what that allows me to do is to time my motion on the 2nd word. So it helps me understand when I can move my arm. So if I'm just going to say tunnel, now I have to remember to say tunnel and then move my arm. But if I'm going to say break tunnel, I go, I'm not going to do it in a break. I can go break tunnel, and it gives me, a very, I actually said that wrong. If I just say tunnel, I do not want to move my arm when I say tunnel, right? But if I say break tunnel, I can say break and then move my arm when I say tunnel. That's what I meant to say. Much easier to practice timing that is related to a specific point in time versus vagueness, which is first say tunnel and then move. for nothing's happening at that moment. I hope that makes sense, because that is an important key element to having consistent and clear start line releases and contact releases, is being super consistent about never releasing with motion, or if you're going to release with motion, always releasing with motion in the same way, so that your dog has something to respond to. Let's see. And, I just wanted to also point out at 13 minutes and 30 seconds into that group mark training session, Kathleen and Becca, they have worked through so many issues that they're really a solid team. They've come a long way since I've seen them. They're doing fantastic. And she just had really a great example of how you can provide clarity but a start line using these 3 mark buckets in the way I just outlined, going back and forth the 3 mark buckets and setting the dog in front of the first one. And you'll see that her dog did exactly like what I said she did in the trial setting, and how perfect it is to be able to work on your trial issues away from trials. Because people say my dog only does this at trials. It's like, get creative, find a way to set up a scenario with marks. You can usually do it with just marks, or marks in a tree, or marks with a cone, or a hoop, whatever. And get creative and figure out a way to set your dog up for that same mental challenge, and work on it 100 times instead of 6 times a day if you run 6 classes a day. It's possible to work on all of this stuff away from trialing in a way that's simpler, clearer, and more productive, because we can do a gazillion reps, and we can do a gazillion variations of a gazillion reps. So if you have like a perplexing performance problem that you think is only showing up at trials and that you'll never get it to show up elsewhere, please comment in our group, and let's come up with ways for you to work on that. I mean, this is really, what Ocean is about, is getting down to the core issues that are underlying those expressions, those perplexing expressions of problems. So don't be shy. Don't think, that you can't ask for customized help to whatever problems you're having. Because really, I think Kathleen and Becca showed beautifully how the exact start line issue did show up in this setup. And, I have, I think, the ability to keep thinking outside of bigger and bigger boxes until I finally find a way to work on the underlying issue. So it's not that I have any great gift other than the persistence and the passion for continuing to come up with different ways of presenting things such that the core issue does emerge or bubble up. So please make use of that here. You'll make it fun for me as well. So let's see. And another point that I want to make is, if your dog is really struggling with 2 marks, and if stepping off, stepping on, stepping off, stepping on marks when you can't add handler motion, go back to 1 mark. If you can't do all the handling with 1 mark, adding 2 marks is just overcomplication, right? So I will work with a single mark bucket with my dogs. They're highly mark trained. They have great enthusiasm. I do all sorts of things, but I never stop doing the simple stuff because the simple stuff makes all the little underlying things bubble up. If they're there, they're going to bubble up in the simple stuff as well. So don't think of mark training as this thing that you're going to progress through and leave behind the early stages. That continue to go back and find interesting ways to challenge yourself and your dog with that single mark bucket. Let's see. Oh, and one other, this is a note about slow internet. I learned this about Vimeo. If you have slow internet, Vimeo will automatically adjust the resolution of videos to match your internet speed if you watch on a computer. It doesn't do it on mobile devices, iPads, stuff like that. So watch on your computer if you're not able to see the high resolution videos that I upload. And the reason I upload them is so that they are high res for people who can see them, because they sure look great when you can, see all that detail. The downside is if you have slow internet speed, use your computer, because you will be able to watch them there. And don't let technical stuff stop you from progressing. I know it's really easy to get frustrated and want to give up when something's not working, but please, either email me or message me if you're having some kind of technical problem, and I will do my best to help you solve it, because there's a lot of great stuff here, and I want you to be able to access it and to make use of it. So please don't let technical issues stop you, because I know how easy that is, because they're really frustrating.